one of former Supreme Court judge, former US Supreme Court Judge Justice Scalia, a hardline conservative that not all of us agree with all the time, right? But he once said in an interview how there are several countries where there are very salutary Bill of Rights, but nobody would want to live in those countries because they don't have the most important institutional arrangement, which is the separation of powers. Right? And that is where we are here. Right? So we could have a charter of fundamental rights in our constitution. We may go on and on about privacy. We have the international human rights instruments that we've ratified, right? The ICCPR, the UDHR. We can go on and on. But if this constitutional design, the structural separation of powers, both vertically and horizontally, this is hacked, then very little remains of the idea of India itself. This kind of an attack on this, right? So, in fact, in the list of institutions, I left out the free press, which isn't specifically mentioned in the Constitution, but it's certainly now be acknowledged as a marker of any modern democracy. Right? So, if an attack on each of these institutions is a coup from within, from the seat of power. We've talked so much about an undeclared emergency before, but we now have military-grade weapons being unleashed on the government's own citizens. So maybe the idea we must explore is this is an undeclared civil war. Using the legal framework of privacy or surveillance alone almost it is a euphemism for what has happened. So it almost takes the sting off of what has happened. So that is, I cannot help but wonder if we've all talked ourselves into these euphemisms. Right? While we were busy asserting the right to privacy, the national security state seems to have marched on, undermining two crucial things. One is the right to have rights, right? So when it progressively dismantled the idea of citizenship, right? So this I'm not certainly laying the blame only at this government, but I call this the national security state, right? So the right to have rights has been undermined by when we dismantle the idea of citizenship. And now with what we see with the Pegasus revelations is that the government really does not care about the very notion of fundamental rights. The government doesn't really care about the notion of people having rights at all.